ended up being in the world of fashion, which was not my intention at all. But while I was sort of known for doing fashion, I would sneakily on the side do these little fiber art projects. I think that over the last few years, anyway, for me, I've started to move into that direction, making mostly clothing, some set pieces for Hollywood. I had been looking for these giant knitting needles that at the time didn't exist on the market. And I was about to have somebody make them for me, and right before I pulled the trigger, I went on to Etsy to see if maybe possibly somebody was finally making these knitting needles that I'd been looking for 10 years. And about a month earlier, this guy had opened a shop and not only had all of the needles that I had been looking for, but they were beautifully made. And that's sort of, I was either his first or one of his first customers buying those knitting needles, and it was his request for feedback on the needles that kind of got our relationship going.
I still don't knit, and before that I had never made a knitting needle, but it was the result of another project that I was working on that I ended up making knitting needles, and very quickly ended up with the largest collection of giant knitting needles available anywhere in the world, and likely still is that.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is that I met Emilie. One of the things that I think has been really helpful is that we each, when you're part of the creative process, you come into a freak out moment, right? And we're there for each other in those freak out moments and allow each other to do our freak out, which getting it out of your system allows you to move forward. But the experience of, it's pretty intense to be making this kind of stuff. And yet there's always a feeling of whimsy. Like, you can't work on Goodnight Moon and not feel some whimsy. You can't, how seriously can you take yourself when you're making something like this? Although, not to diminish the value of the work, but we want to see people walk through this door, encounter this piece, be taken back to a point in their own life when life may have been more simple, when joy may have been easier to come by, and we see those two things on people's faces all the time because we have a camera up there. we get to watch this all day long and watch people come in, and we can hear them talking, and whimsy and joy. We want to spend as much time in those two places as we can, and this, I think, helps other people do that too.
One thing I'll say about this area in general is that, and one of the things that drew us to this area is the amount of space and beauty that we can be surrounded by here. The strange thing about having so much space around us is that I feel as though we are more connected to the people around us.
There's a larger thing at play here, and it is about we live in a part of the state that is aging, and there are a lot of challenges and opportunities that come with an unprecedented demographic shift like that. It's for the first time ever. There are more people over 60 than under 18. So everything that exists in this community and every other community that was designed and built when there were more younger people than olders may not be sufficient for the time that we live in now. And so this work, as innocent as it may appear, is actually, its aim is to start to address some of the underlying challenges that are a direct result of an aging population. And I would say that the more artists we can attract into that space, I know that the happier I would be, because there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of work to be done.